Two hikers were exploring a remote area when they came across the ruins of what appeared to be an old castle. Curious, they decided to take a closer look and began filming as they approached the abandoned structure. One of them looked through a window. At first, the room appeared completely empty, but then they noticed something. What looked like a tall, shadow-like figure standing motionless at the back of the room. The figure blended so well into the darkness that they almost missed it. The moment they realized it was there, both hikers immediately backed away before quickly running from the ruins. The footage was later shared online, where it quickly sparked debate. Some believe it was simply a trick of light and shadow inside the abandoned building. Personally, I think it looked noticeably darker than the surrounding shadows, and it definitely appeared to have a human silhouette. So what do you think they saw? Just an unusual shadow? Or was someone or something standing inside that abandoned castle? 3 years ago, Reddit user Wazzies shared a video recorded by a park ranger working in Tikal, Guatemala. While on patrol at night, the ranger heard a strange voice echoing through the forest. Call repeated several times, but despite searching the area, he couldn't find anyone nearby. According to the ranger, he had worked in the park for years and had never heard anything like it before. Some viewers suggested it could have been culling, a traditional Scandinavian calling technique known for carrying over long distances. I have to admit, it does sound similar. But how would a sound like that appear in a remote Guatemalan forest in the middle of the night? To this day, no explanation has been confirmed. A woman was walking through the woods with her German Shepherd Leo when his behavior suddenly changed. Instead of continuing along the trail, Leo froze, raised his hackles, tucked his tail, and stared intensely into the trees. At first, his owner couldn't tell whether he had spotted an animal or another person, and she even considered calling the police. Moments later, a man wearing ragged clothing and carrying a backpack quietly emerged from the woods. He walked past them without saying a word or acknowledging either of them. Thankfully, nothing happened, and the rest of their 6-mile hike passed without incident. Still, the encounter was a reminder that your dog may notice things long before you do. A man was hiking near the Lone Peak Mountains when he noticed a large figure walking across a distant mountainside. It moved with surprising ease over the steep terrain, maintaining a steady pace without ever seeming to struggle. As he zoomed in, the figure appeared upright and human-like, but its size and build immediately caught his attention. Unable to get any closer, he continued filming from a distance before the figure eventually disappeared over the slope. Because the area has a long history of reported Bigfoot sightings, some believed the video showed exactly that. Others argued it was simply a distant hiker made to look much larger by perspective. With only a short clip filmed from such a great distance, it's impossible to know for certain what was actually captured. This man had just moved into a new home in Australia when, one night, he started hearing this. It sounded absolutely terrifying. Not knowing what was making the noise, he was convinced something disturbing was lurking outside, but the source turned out to be far less mysterious. His neighbor owned a male koala. During breeding season, male koalas produce deep guttural bellows that sound nothing like their cute teddy bear-like appearance would suggest. Without knowing that, it's easy to see why he was so frightened. Had you ever heard a koala sound like that before? Facebook user Tammy shared a series of photos captured by her friend's trail camera. The images showed a woman unexpectedly walking across a remote private property in a small town with very little public access. According to Tammy, the woman didn't appear injured, frightened, or lost. Some believed she had simply wandered onto the property by accident. Others came up with more unusual theories, suggesting she could have been a missing person or someone who had just escaped a dangerous situation. Without any additional information, no one was ever able to determine who she was, why she was there, or where she went afterward. So who was this mysterious woman, and what was she doing alone on that isolated property? A person was exploring the wilderness of Colombia when they looked up and noticed something strange gliding silently through the sky. They immediately began filming. The object appeared long and horizontal, moving steadily without any visible wings, propellers, or obvious means of propulsion. With only a brief clip to examine, there isn't enough evidence to identify it with certainty. YouTuber Roderick's Outdoors was on a turkey hunting trip with friends, quietly waiting in a heavily wooded area while wearing full camouflage. Everything was calm until a gunshot suddenly echoed through the forest. Seconds later, Roderick realized he had been hit. He immediately shouted to let everyone know where he was, fearing another shot could follow. Another hunter in the area had mistaken movement in the bushes for a turkey and fired without properly identifying the target. The shot struck Roderick in the leg. Fortunately, his injuries were not life-threatening. A Redditor named Kingfire Quad shared this trail camera photo from their aunt's property. It showed a person walking across the yard at night. Although it doesn't look ghostly at first, the aunt couldn't come up with any other explanation, saying it would be highly unusual for anyone to be walking across her property in the middle of the night since she lives in a very remote area. But if it wasn't a ghost, then who was walking across that property that night, and why? Swimmer Gerrit Jan was enjoying a swim in a river in the Netherlands when he was suddenly attacked by an aggressive swan. The bird repeatedly charged at him, forcing him into a prolonged struggle as he tried to keep it away. Although swans often look calm, they can become highly territorial, especially during nesting season, and have been known to attack people who get too close. Gerrit Jan eventually managed to escape without serious injuries, but he later said the encounter was far more dangerous than he expected and believed a small child might not have survived that attack. You might not expect it, but swans are stronger than you think, so keep your distance. A group of urban explorers ventured into Chicago's sewer system expecting to find little more than old tunnels. Chicago has a long history of building underground infrastructure, from sewer systems to freight tunnels beneath the city, many of which date back more than a century. But what they discovered wasn't what they expected. Instead, they came across a deep underground cave. Curious, they followed it into a vast cave-like network hidden beneath the city. The area was filled with stagnant water, dust, and signs that something had once been built or excavated there. The deeper they went, the more abandoned and mysterious the place felt. No clear explanation was ever given for what this particular underground space had been originally used for. Was it part of a forgotten construction project, an abandoned utility system, or something else entirely? A hiker was in trouble after getting caught in an extreme windstorm deep in the woods in September 2024. Large trees started bending until some were ripped completely out of the ground, their roots exposed as they crashed down nearby. The hiker remained in the middle of it, recording as the landscape around him was being torn apart by the powerful winds. Definitely a dangerous place to be during a storm like that. Luckily, he made it out safely, but this is a good reminder that checking the weather forecast before leading him into the wilderness can make all the difference. A man walking his dog after a heavy snowstorm in Europe in 2014 came across something strange in the middle of a frozen pond. There was a hole in the ice that appeared to pulse as water moved in and out in a steady rhythm. Even stranger, a reddish liquid could be seen swirling in the center, while dark, tentacle-like shapes seemed to move beneath the surface. Some believed it was simply a natural phenomenon caused by groundwater flowing beneath the ice, stirring up iron-rich sediment and underwater vegetation. Others suggested geothermal activity, while a few imagined something far more mysterious lurking below the frozen surface. Whatever caused it, it was certainly an unsettling sight. In July 2025, around 750 girls were spending their summer at Camp Mystic, an all-girls Christian camp along the Guadalupe River in Texas. In the early hours of July 4th, a powerful storm moved into the area. At first, it didn't seem unusual. Some campers woke to the sound of thunder, but counselors reassured them it was just another storm and told them to go back to sleep. Still, one 10-year-old girl later said she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Not long afterward, counselors in cabins closest to the river noticed water pooling on the floors. Realizing the flooding was becoming dangerous, staff rushed to alert camp leadership. The camp owner, Deke Eastland, along with other staff members, immediately began evacuating the cabins nearest the river, loading girls into vehicles and sending them toward higher ground. As the floodwaters continued rising, two 19-year-old counselors made a heartbreaking decision. Fearing the girls could become separated during the evacuation, they wrote each camper's name directly onto their skin wherever it could be easily seen. Soon, the situation turned into a race against time. Some girls were told to grab only a blanket and pillow before running into the darkness. Others were forced to wade through chest-deep floodwater, while counselors held onto them to stop them from being swept away. In another cabin, frightened girls climbed onto their beds as water rushed inside. A 9-year-old on the top bunk even told the others they could place their favorite stuffed animals beside her to keep them from being washed away. While the water continued rising, counselors helped the children climb out through the cabin windows one by one before guiding them to higher ground. Elsewhere in the camp, staff members became trapped themselves. One cabin door snapped in half under the force of the floodwaters. The counselors escaped onto the porch, clinging to the support columns until the water reached their shoulders. Realizing they couldn't stay there, they climbed onto the roof. When one staff member was swept away and became caught in a volleyball net, the others tied their shirts together in an attempt to help. Fortunately, she managed to fight the current and swim back before they pulled her onto the roof. Throughout the terrifying night, counselors did everything they could to keep the children calm. They prayed together, sang songs and played games, and comforted frightened campers while they waited for help to arrive. Finally, after sunrise, helicopters began evacuating the survivors. Many of the girls boarded buses barefoot, cold, exhausted, and covered in cuts after losing their shoes in the rushing water. As the buses drove away, they finally saw the true scale of the disaster. Cars were stacked on top of each other, buildings had been torn apart, and large sections of the camp where they had been making memories only hours earlier had simply disappeared. In the days that followed, the full tragedy became clear. At least 27 campers and counselors had lost their lives, making the Camp Mystic flood one of the deadliest summer camp disasters in recent U.S. history. A homeowner in Arvada, Colorado, checked their security cameras after hearing reports that a bear had been roaming the neighborhood. The footage showed a large black bear climbing over a fence before wandering into a nearby yard. But instead of causing damage, the bear calmly walked onto the patio and lay down beside the family's dog. For several moments, the two animals simply watched each other, and the dog appeared surprisingly relaxed. The homeowner later said it almost looked as if they had met before. Eventually, a neighbor's dog began barking, causing the bear to get up and quietly wander away without harming anyone. It was an incredibly peaceful encounter, but one that could have turned dangerous in an instant if either the dog or the bear had reacted differently. A group of people was on a boat ride along a river, hoping to spot some alligators. When they finally found one, it began swimming straight toward them. Then, this happened. Fortunately, no one was injured, and the alligator slipped back into the river. While driving to their campsite, a powerful tornado suddenly came tearing across the landscape. The person immediately grabbed their camera and began filming. As the tornado drew closer, nearby trees bent violently, looking as though they could be ripped from the ground at any moment. The footage captured just how quickly these storms can intensify and how destructive they can become within seconds. Watching something that powerful from such a short distance must have been absolutely terrifying. Fortunately, they managed to escape without being caught in the tornado's path. A 73-year-old man from the Netherlands set out on what was supposed to be a routine bike ride through the forests of Veluwe, one of the country's largest nature reserves. But when he failed to return home, his family became concerned and reported him missing. An extensive search operation was launched, with police, search and rescue teams, volunteers and tracking dogs combing the vast wilderness for any sign of him. As the days passed, the search became increasingly difficult. At one point, rescuers were even forced to temporarily suspend their efforts after wolves were spotted in the area, creating additional safety concerns. With no trace of the missing man, hope of finding him alive slowly began to fade. Then, completely unexpectedly, a group of cyclists riding through the forest spotted him and immediately called for help. After spending several days alone in the wilderness, the 73-year-old was finally rescued. He was taken to a nearby hospital, where officials said he was in generally good condition, although he showed signs of possible hypothermia. To this day, authorities still don't know exactly where he spent those days and nights, or how he managed to survive alone in the forest for so long. Reddit user Derve Dia shared a clip showing two men fishing in rough seas. A powerful wave crashed into the boat, nearly pulling one of them overboard. For a moment he disappeared beneath the water before the other man managed to hold onto him and pull him back. Many pointed out that neither man appeared to be wearing a life jacket or any other safety gear. Fortunately, both men managed to stay safe, but everything about this clip just stresses me out. A black Labrador had to be rescued after becoming stranded on Scotland's highest mountain. The dog had become seriously ill after eating cannabis that had reportedly been discarded along the trail. Unable to continue, the dog was left stranded on the mountainside until a mountain rescue team reached it and carried it back to safety. Thankfully, the Labrador survived and later recovered. A reminder that items carelessly left behind on hiking trails can have serious consequences for both people and wildlife. In 2017, 82-year-old Dale Sanders, better known as Greybeard, set out on one of the toughest challenges of his life. His goal was to become the oldest person to complete the entire Appalachian Trail, a journey stretching nearly 2,200 miles from Georgia to Maine. The trail had to be completed within a year to count as a true through hike. Day after day, Dale pushed through steep mountains, unpredictable weather, and the physical demands of the trail, supported by friends who met him along the way with food, supplies, and encouragement. After months of hiking, he finally completed the journey and became the oldest person ever to finish the Appalachian Trail at the age of 82. But Dale wasn't finished chasing adventures. Years later, after another hiker broke his record, Greybeard decided to return to the trail. In 2026, at 91 years old, he began hiking the Appalachian Trail again with one goal: to reclaim his title as the oldest person to complete the legendary trail. But to him, his story isn't just about breaking records. It's about proving that age doesn't have to stop you from chasing the next adventure. A woman was enjoying a swim in a river in Brazil when she felt something brush against her legs beneath the water. Assuming it was just a small log drifting with the current, she reached down to move it out of the way. Instead, she grabbed a baby caiman. Fortunately, neither the woman nor the young caiman was injured. Still, I don't think I'd be getting back in that water. In April 2025, 31-year-old Tobias traveled to northern Italy with his girlfriend and their young son for what was supposed to be a relaxing vacation near Lake Como. One evening, Tobias decided to go on a short, solo hike into the mountains. He reportedly told a local woman he was planning to hike toward the small mountain village of Mota, but he never returned.
His girlfriend raised the alarm, triggering an extensive search involving more than 100 rescuers who searched deep ravines, dense forests, and steep mountain slopes for nearly a week. Despite their efforts, no trace of Tobias was found, and the official search was eventually called off because the terrain was simply too dangerous to continue. Refusing to give up, Tobias's family continued searching for answers. They raised thousands of euros to fund another search with the specialist organization Rescue International and placed missing person posters throughout the area where he had vanished. Then, more than a year later, a local fisherman made an unexpected discovery. While walking along a remote river near the village of Baggio, he spotted a jacket lying among the rocks. He immediately recognized it from Tobias's missing person posters and contacted the family. Using donations raised by the family, Rescue International searched the area with drones and soon made another discovery. A single human bone was found upstream from where the jacket had been lying. The remains were handed over to Italian authorities for forensic testing. Despite reports claiming Tobias had been found, his family says nothing has been officially confirmed, and investigators are still trying to determine whether either the jacket or the bone actually belongs to him. More than a year after Tobias vanished, his family is still waiting for the answers they've been searching for ever since that day in the mountains.
UV Parjapti was riding his bike with a friend along a remote dirt road late at night when something beside the road suddenly caught their attention. They stopped and pointed a camera toward the bushes, where something appeared to be moving while making strange, continuous sounds. As they zoomed in, they captured what looked like a figure with long hair, horn-like features, and a reddish face that stood out against the darkness. Many believe the entire scene was staged for views or featured someone wearing a costume. So what do you think? Was it nothing more than a planned prank, or did UV capture something genuinely unsettling on that remote dirt road? Now, let's watch some more wilderness encounters together.